the spring of 2010, the Essex Inn was officially purchased by Rick and Karen Dalton, leaders of the program College for Every Student, or CFES. After a year of renovations, the Daltons not only built a new headquarters for CFES, but worked to restore an American landmark with a history spanning over 200 years. This spring, students from the Willsboro Central School chapter of CFES spoke to local residents about the history of the inn, what the inn had meant to them over the years, and, as another chapter of its history begins, what their hopes were for the future of the Essex Inn. To begin to understand the history of the Essex Inn, you first have to understand why it was built in Essex. As with many things in life, that question can be answered with location, location, location.
Essex actually has a harbor with the North Harbor, and then there's Biggs Park, and then the South Harbor. And with the north and south winds, they're in pretty good shape. So things were beginning to come from the farms, Reber, Essex, Willsboro, and they were coming there. Crops now, wheat was the bigger grain crop of any of them, and livestock, cattle, hogs, a lot of them not on the hoof, but killed and cured in barrels of salt. Honey, maple syrup, hops, other grains. There were a number of things. So to get them to market, they had to get them on ships now, and because the ships were coming and unloading and providing these products for people who lived in Willsboro and Essex and Reber and Lewis and wherever else. So Essex had the harbor, and that's why it is different than Willsboro. So that's how Essex began to build as a town, and there were enough people that they split themselves off in 1805 and were a separate municipal jurisdiction. And at that point, that's when the inns start. The Essex Inn dates roughly from 1810.
It wasn't long after 1810 that stories began to emerge of life at the inn, including one infamous tale that became part of a famous book written in 1825 titled The Narrative of James Pierce.
Well, it's kind of an interesting book in that it was chosen as a classic in 1960 for that era of 1823, and it was written about an incident that began or started right here in the Essex Inn. And it's just, to me at least, a perfect time capsule of sort of what life was like here. Although you might not want to advertise the fact that the memorable thing was the innkeeper came into the room of the two travelers and tried to lift their billfold, and one of them woke up and somebody in the hallway had a lantern, and he saw the innkeeper's face and knew that this Lyman Wooster was the one trying to rip him off. So he woke up his traveling companion, and the two of them went across the street to the competing inn over there.
Mr. Pierce, though, was not the only famous guest to pass through the inn over the years, as everyone from soldiers in the War of 1812, including former owner of the inn, Delvin DeLance, to former governor of New York, George Pataki, dropped by for a visit.
I'm not sure how much drilling and how much marching the 37th Regiment did, but they were from Essex. They certainly got together after a number of meetings, and where would they have come? One of the taverns, and the tap room here at the Essex Inn was certainly popular because Delvin DeLance was a member of the 37th Regiment of Essex Militia. So if, a member of your regiment is a tavern keeper here, then you're probably going to come and talk about who did what or, whatever.
one of the people who came there for breakfast was Governor Pataki. And the story that I heard is that he would sit there looking very gruff and tell the waitress, "I'll have the usual." Now, the new waitresses had no idea what the usual was, so they would panic and run back to the kitchen. And luckily, Trish knew what the usual was.
Serving these customers was the job of a number of owners over the years. Yet in the 1900s, as the impasse between these owners, some residents of Essex began to notice the quality of the historic building begin to fade.
We bought our brick house, which was directly across from the inn, in 1963. At the time, the inn, the outside of the inn looks pretty much the way it does today. But the inside was in a shambles. It was packed with boxes and junk, and I remember in the main living room, there was a path amidst all this junk that you could walk through, and that was about the only path you could get through.
So I remember the inn as being certainly not an inn and certainly not beautiful. It was just another semi-abandoned house.
It needed a lot of work.
Yes, yes.
It was in 1995 that the Essex Inn was purchased by Trish and John Walker, a couple from downstate New York who soon got to work on restoring the condition of the historic inn.
We did do all the back sills along the shed part of the building. We had a huge fundraiser for all the columns in the front, so all 11 columns were replaced. And we put a new roof on it and did a lot of renovations inside, a lot of painting and cosmetic type of renovations.
Yet by repairing the inn, the Walkers not only improved the appearance of the building itself, but also worked to restore a sense of community around the inn.
They had a lot of activities which centered around the people in town. So the people in town enjoyed going to the inn. And some of the things that I remember them doing, they would make apple cider in the back. They also had pie contests. And I do remember that Lou Camo always won the pie contest with his apple pie.
We had block dances, we had bands on the verandas, we did pie baking contests, we did pumpkin carving contests for kids, those kinds of things. We had the theater company come every summer. We would do cabarets in the backyard, film festival type of things.
For some reason or other, the Walkers loved Halloween, and they decorated the inn, and they would have ghosts and goblins popping out of the closets and scaring the clientele.
That was a very famous one. Every year we would decorate the whole inn as a haunted inn, and the kids in the kitchen loved to take part in that. So all the rooms were dark upstairs, and every room had something different going on. Either somebody was being hung or electrocuted or some crazy nonsense, and you could not, you had to come up the staircase and walk down the hallway and come down. So there's a lot of screaming and crazy things going on.
Ghosts falling out of closets
And go up to the cemeteries and give the crypt tours and
dead people in the beds, and then they would rise up. Oh, it was very well done. It was very realistic.
And it was the sense of community, among other things, that many felt the town of Essex lost when, in 2010, a poor economy and health issues forced the Walkers to close the doors on the inn.
Well, unfortunately, the economy just went south, and that's what happened. It was just, bad for a few years, and it's such a short period to make money in Essex. We did very well there in the summers because of the camps. Camp Dudley, we always had repeat business. I watched these kids grow up. Some of them became new counselors by the time we left it, so it was interesting. It was fun. We met wonderful people of all walks of life.
In 2009, when they really stopped operations in the fall, Essex went dark.
Yeah.
There was no business on Main Street.
Right.
The post office and the town hall. What was it? Renew and the antique stores, they're seasonal. The real estate office that Brad Beers has, seasonal. Come October, there's no cars in the street, there's no lights. I mean, street lights, but there are no business lights. Starting in October 2009. The inn and year-round food service is absolutely crucial to have life in a town. You can't even have a luncheon meeting there, still today, until that inn really gets open and going.
The inn was, when it was open as an inn for many years, was a focal point, a once-a-week meeting place for friends, where we were sometimes a little rowdy, and Trish didn't like that very much, but it was wonderful to have a room full of friends, having a meal, having a drink, and just getting together. And that gathering place, ever since the inn closed, has been sorely missed by the community at large.
That same year, though, Rick and Karen Dalton of Vermont were on the search for a new office for their organization, College for Every Student, when the Essex Inn popped on the market.
The inn came up and we were able to work out an arrangement with the bank and really trade a house for the inn. And then we became inn owners, and we had really no idea what we were doing, but we're excited about what the inn represented, I mean the history, and because we plan to live in Willsboro and Essex, to have an inn that operates 12 months of the year is really exciting for us. So we are now innkeepers, and lo and behold, the inn and the restaurant will open up in a couple of weeks, and it's very exciting, and that's thanks to literally dozens and dozens of people who've been part of the project. People who have dug into the ground and put together foundations and hammered nails and put in windows, wires and pipes. So it really has been it's taken a village to put this inn back together.
And it was that village that was rewarded, not only with the opening of a new and fully renovated Essex Inn, but with the return of a historic landmark ready to play an important role in the community, as another chapter in the history of the Essex Inn begins.
It's just beautiful. And to find that it's an inn again with a restaurant and a wonderful kitchen, and the hope that Essex will maybe have a year-round facility where you can go and have a nice dinner. It's been a long time that we've had that.
That's the anchor for the economic development of the town. Food, 12 months of the year, a place to stay 12 months of the year, and people coming to Essex for meetings with CFES.
Right.
Then can the inn market itself to other people?
Good shape because it now has a real foundation. All the beams are good, the walls are good, the roof is good. I don't care what happens, what changes are made. This building has at least another 100 years of life.
I think it belongs to the town of Essex. It's part of it's the mainstay, it's the main building of the town. And I said to John, whoever owns this inn, I think we're just one of many innkeepers, even though you own it for a short time, maybe a year, 15 years, whatever, it still belongs to the people.